Well, I'd like to welcome Warren Taylor to the Appraiser podcast today. Warren has appraised homes for players on our very own Stanley Cup winning champions, the Vegas Knights. And Warren's from Canada, so of course he's a hockey fan.
Of course.
And he has been an appraiser in Las Vegas since 1999. So Warren, go ahead and tell me a little bit about your experience and why you enjoy being an appraiser.
Well, my first 10 years appraising was up in Canada. That's where I started, up in the Vancouver area, and moved myself here at the start of 1999. It's a great place to be an appraiser, be in this industry. It is so varied. There's so many interesting properties, interesting people, unusual properties, enormous properties.
Well, you mentioned the word interesting properties. Tell me a little bit about what makes a property interesting and what's sort of the craziest feature in a home that you've seen.
I keep track of every home I've appraised, and I am now at a little over 10,000 appraisals. I very rarely do basic tract homework. Almost all my clients have me do very high-end, very large, very custom. I've appraised some of the highest value properties, homes of $20 million plus, $30 million plus. And so what you see when you do those properties, you meet some very interesting people. Like you mentioned, I think I'm in on 5 different of our team's players so far. I'm glad to see you've got your jersey on. Also, I've done many entertainers' houses, some politicians' houses, some famous actors, people that are A-level Hollywood actors. I've appraised their homes too in this city. So you get to meet some interesting people that you would not have expected to meet, and see some very amazing homes, some interesting features.
Let's talk about those features.
Features. One of the homes I looked at in Alta Historical District area some time ago has an underground speakeasy, full-on lounge with the bar and the lights and all that. That same property had a replica 1950s diner in it, the red and white, and looked like a 50s diner. Pretty cool.
Inside the house.
In the house. Actually, that was underground. So you go to an underground tunnel that was underground. 3 properties with underground gun ranges. I see some theaters that will rival a movie theater, cigar bars, just like normal wet bars that you might see in a standard tract home. Oh no, these wet bars belong in casinos. And in fact, one of the homes that I had appraised had originally been owned by the owner of, I believe it was the Silver Nugget, back in the 60s. So it had a proper full-on bar that belonged in a casino. It was beautiful. Tucked away in a hidden room in that basement was an alcohol collection, unopened. It was labeled for that casino from probably been sitting in there since the 1960s.
All right, you mentioned that you have appraised a home up to $30 million. So what do you get for $30 million?
Well, you get very new, you get very modern everything. You get location. You're obviously going to be in guard-gated tracts. And for those that know Las Vegas that are listening to your show here, it's one particular guard gate tract. The values are immensely high. Apparently, I have a visitor that are immensely high, and that's the guard gate tract summit. Often well over 10,000 square feet. I think the largest home I've appraised was well over 20,000. It was about 25,000 square feet. It was the largest house. Being in a school, it was so big. So you're getting a lot of square footage. You're getting every modern feature you can imagine.
It's funny because I recently saw a normal 4-bedroom, 2,000-foot house that literally had a 5-person steam shower in it. And I was like, wow.
You will, yeah. The kitchen's a big place where I make sure on an inspection that I pay attention in a home like that, because you're going to find throughout the house probably 2 or 3 or 4 bars. You're going to find refrigerator drawers in cabinetry everywhere. So there can be 15 or 20 refrigerators in a house of that size and scale. It'll have a catering kitchen, so almost a second kitchen in a way, with many of those same features copied over again.
That's amazing. That's incredible. So, all right. Now I know that you're not always comfortable naming names of celebrities, but maybe tell me what it was like to actually be in a celebrity's home appraising their house?
Yeah, a lot of times you don't see this, the celebrity or the Hollywood actor or the sports personality won't be home. I'll be dealing with their handler, or I'll be dealing with their house manager. In those cases, the house manager knows knows the house through and through, so it's good for my job. But sometimes those people are there. They're almost always super friendly, very fun. They're curious about me, what I'm doing in their house, and what I'm looking for, what I'm looking at. But most people are. Most people are curious to seeing what I'm up to and why I'm doing stuff and have questions for me.
Very cool, very cool. Well, I mean, me personally, I live not that far from Spanish Trails. So I have run into Mayweather on Tropicana. I ran into Cash Patel at the Walgreens with his Secret Service. Man, that was kind of interesting. So I can only imagine how many celebrity homes that you're doing, maybe in Spanish Trail,
Poker players' homes, and actually the person you just mentioned, I have appraised at least one of his homes.
Okay, excellent.
not to drop names.
Yeah, right, exactly. Without telling me which one or what the house was like, right? Understood. So I want to talk a little bit about realtors. So obviously, as an appraiser, we worry about you guys. You come in and you kill our deals, and we're just like, oh boy, here comes Warren the appraiser. He's going to kill my deal. Tell me the difference between an appraisal and a comp.
The comp that you use, because we use the same term, of course, appraisers. We use comparable sales, so we use comps. I hope realtors realize that when I do kill a deal, and it does happen, I take absolutely no pleasure in it. I'm not happy that it happens when I have a sale contract in my hand, for a deal that a realtor's doing, and there's some reason that I cannot, is whatever opinion of value I arrive at, I need to be able to prove it in the market. If I can't prove it, there needs to be, if I've got a sale contract that you've written, Rhonda, and I'm looking at your sale contract, and I can't prove it in the market, and I'm going to kill your deal. I don't take any pleasure from that. I know that a realtor's talk a lot about dollar per square foot rate, and be fine in tract home work. But as an appraiser, especially in custom work, I don't really consider properties on a per square foot rate. There's too many variables that throw off that figure. I can have two very similar properties, yet one sells for 680 a foot and one sells for 900 a foot, but they're very similar. The big difference is, for instance, difference in lot size. Lot size isn't accounted for in per square foot rate of the structure. And a big one is economies of scale. So when you have a home that is 4,500 square feet, it'll sell for a heck of a lot higher dollar per square foot rate than a much larger home. It's just the way economies of scale work. I have to be able to support and prove everything I do. It's a little bit different. So from your side as a realtor, you are marketing. You're looking, put a property in its best light, and you're looking to, to sell the property at the best, the best value that you can get for your client. As an appraiser, I am bound by code of ethics, do my job based on an arm's length position where I don't have a bone to pick. I don't have a side that I'm on. I'm not looking to appraise it high, appraise it low. I'm not looking to be on anybody's side. I'm looking to be a independent eye that looks at that property, comes out with an opinion of value that I can clearly prove in the market, and I can support in the market. It's not good when I have people come back at me and say, you've underappraised. Usually it's underappraised because you didn't consider this, and this. And 99.5% of the time I can say I did consider all those things. I have to be able to prove everything I do. Opinion of value I give, it's not just pulled out of thin air or thrown at a dartboard. I have to be able to prove it, and prove it by comparable data and adjustments.
What's one thing that you think a realtor can do to improve the accuracy of our comps? Like tell me a little bit about the value of pools, and we'll talk about solar in a minute because that deserves its own highlight. But tell me, what do you think that realtors should be aware of when we're doing comps?
Since I haven't looked at it from a realtor point of view, it's hard for me to say. But I would again, going back to what I said, I would understand that a realtor is going to look at comps by the rosy colored glasses. You want to look at the most positive you can, because again, you're trying to give the best dollar value for your client. Make sure you consider sales that have similar features as best as you can, because that's what I'm going to do. Location's important, square footage, functional utility, design, layout, as you mentioned, pools, sometimes casitas, sometimes bars, sometimes outdoor kitchens, bigger barbecues, bigger barbecue features. Lot size can be important. So whether realtors are considering those things, I'm not sure. I hope many realtors like to provide me the data that they used to come up with their initial asking price. And I have no problem accepting that. That's all can be part of an appraiser's profile. Don't ignore sales that are right in your development, because an appraiser isn't or shouldn't. And keep an eye if you feel your property is the highest and the best in your market and in your development. Maybe it is, but an appraiser might not find this, might not agree.
What do you add on to the value of the home for a pool?
We're in a neighborhood where pools are very rare. Pools are not expected, and pools may be, one house in 30 has a pool. It would be far less than in a market area where a pool is expected. 19 houses out of 20 have pools. Pools are expected in those types of market areas. And it can come down to as well with what's the general value of homes in that area. If I'm in a super high-end guard-gated development where pool construction was between $150,000 and $300,000 to build your pool, inventory value to that property is certainly going to be more than a one like mine that costs $30,000, to build. It's far less. So the adjustments that I apply for pools usually range between 35-40 on the low end, upwards of 100,000 on 120,000 on the high end. With some exceptions, I've adjusted much more for some pools that have been so exceptional, they're just through the roof. Amazing pools. Anything that is not affixed by more than its own weight, it's probably personal property, and it's not going to be included in the opinion of value. So if your contract does include all the furnishings, and includes the Mercedes that's in the garage, and includes, that type of thing, I'm not going to be including that in the opinion of value.
Fun fact, when we purchased our home, there was a van in the driveway, and my husband's cousin, their kid needed a vehicle, and so we said, yeah, we'll take the van with the home. It was at no price, but the owner had moved to Texas and she wasn't driving anymore, and so she was fine. They sent us the title, the little cousin got the van, and everybody was happy. But not a usual thing that sells with the home. So all right, now I want to go into the controversial topic of solar.
Typically, there's been two types. There's been lease or owned. Now we have finance. Now we have power purchase agreement. There's those added to it. So for me, if it's a lease system, you're basically renting your roof to some company who is now selling you power. Why are you doing that? Just buy your power and the energy. For an appraiser, a lease system does not add value. A finance system does not add value because it's owned by the finance company. Now, an owned system is the one that adds value to the property. And so in a paired sales analysis, what you attempt to do is find two properties as similar as possible in almost every way: location, square footage, features, upgrading, room counts, location, all that, with that one difference between is being, in this case, a solar system. Probably a total of 30 or 40 sales. It was a neighborhood where when the neighborhood was built, they offered owned solar systems or no solar systems, and later they offered leased solar systems. So I had this nice little community where I could get out and work it out. So I arrayed all the data, all the sales, from highest sale price to lowest sale price. And then I went from property to property. Does it have a solar system? Yes or no, owned or leased? Or does it have no solar system? And I laid it out top to bottom in value, sale price. And it was obvious because it went solar system, owned, and then we got to none, and then it went leased. So it was pretty clear that an owned solar system does add contributory value to a property, but it also proved a leased system actually detracted from the value of the property. If it's a home that's worth $500,000 or you're in a home that's worth $5 million, the size of the system is going to probably vary. Something that a realtor can really start helping me with is when you are doing a listing with a home that has a solar system, find out what the kilowatt output of that solar system is. Some realtors are doing it and have that information. It might be as small as a 4 kilowatt system. It might be much larger. In fact, I just yesterday had delivered all the equipment for my solar system, which is being installed in the next couple of weeks. Cool. And mine's going to be an 11 kilowatt system. It's actually a commercial size system almost. So a very big system. So that will help me with figuring out where, if the kilowatt size creates a difference in that price. My research found that owned solar system added between about $7,000 to $10,000 as contributory value to the property.
Can you tell me about when the return on investment is actually worth it for people when they're renovating?
Renovation for the purpose of increasing the value of the property, or renovation because you want it. I would hope that if you're going to renovate your home, like make a major change, like redo the whole kitchen, rip out your bathrooms, that kind of thing, you're doing it for yourself. You are really not going to get dollar for dollar return in the market. You will get an increase, the market will show more, and I can see that in the data when I look at sales of homes that have no remodel versus the homes that are partial or fully or they got it out. You can see the difference. But the only time that people are making money off that is probably those house flippers that buy really beat houses and they just gut them out and just do a fairly inexpensive remodel and make it nice and fresh and new. They're probably the only ones that are really making a big profit. But if you're the homeowner, you're going to do an update to your home, make it the way that you want it for yourself and enjoy it. You'll get some return, but enjoy it for yourself.
But so if you were going to pick parts of a home in terms of like the bathrooms or the kitchen or fill in the blank, right? Where are the highest value renovations in terms of that return on investment? Because I think people, they want to enjoy it, but they also want to get that investment, some of that investment back in the sale of their property. Does that make sense? Like what would you pick? Like the first thing you walk into someone's home, and what would you say would be, the best thing to renovate?
Well, you said it, where is most, like a lot of rooms are just a room. It's a square box with a floor and drywall walls and drywall ceiling and lighting. So it's just a box. It's not a whole lot to renovate or to change. You can put new flooring down, which is great. And so the big rooms are the places that have cabinetry, countertops, appliances. So you're looking at bathroom fixtures, full bathroom remodels, kitchen remodels. I was just in one today where they had changed the cabinetry in the bathrooms and put floating cabinets with quartzite countertops, real expensive versus quartz. Really beautiful. Recently saw one with a waterfall onyx counter in their kitchen for the breakfast bar, and onyx is backlit. You light it up and the whole thing glows. It's unbelievable. So you can do those kind of things, and it's going to add value. Now, here's the thing I try and tell people, and it can get into the weeds a bit. I get these kind of questions myself. People can word them a little different. I often get a question. People say, I'm thinking about putting a pool in my property. Should I put a pool in my property? And I say, I don't know. Do you want a pool? It's a pretty standard answer I give them. So I just say, I don't know. Do you want a pool? They go, yeah. I said, okay, well then put a pool in your property. The important thing to remember though, is you need to live in your house long enough and enjoy that pool to make it worth your while. Because you may spend $100,000, $120,000 on putting a pool in. The market may give you back 45 or 50 for that pool. And I had a personal experience with a friend of mine asked me to come and look at their home and give them ideas of what they should do prior to sale. The best advice that I often tell people to do is that you're not going to change your location. Your home is where it is. Your home is what it is. It's it's D.R. Horton, it's whatever home it is. Lennar home in this location, in this town, in this square footage, in this tract, those things aren't going to change. What you need to do is realize you're not going to materially increase the value of your property up and over the value of your market area, of your development. You're spending an incredible amount of money to do it, and then you're throwing money away. Unless, again, like I said, you're doing it for yourself. You're doing things for yourself. Best thing to do is to maintain your home. Maintain it nicely. And as that saying goes, keep up with the Joneses, but don't get ahead of the Joneses. The further you get ahead, yeah, you got the nicest house, but the rest of the neighborhood is bringing you down. So you keep up with your neighborhood, and that's the best way you're going to maintain the value of your property. When the flooring does wear out, replace your flooring. That's key. That's maintaining your home. Kitchen starts to get tatty and get worn down. You upgrade your kitchen or the bathrooms, whatever it is. You just maintain your home, keep the appearance looking nice. Putting in tremendous amounts of money on a remodel, that's appropriate if your home is at that age where those full remodels are needed. Doing it for yourself. So other than that, just keep your home up for its neighborhood. I'll give you two examples. One is my own home. So in my home, when I bought my house here, I live in a standard Bailey McGaw, which some of the older time realtors will know of the Bailey McGaws. The side split. My house had tile and carpeted flooring. I didn't like it much. I'm from somewhere where a lot of people have wood. And I love wood flooring. So I got up to Canada and I brought down a whole house full of 3/4-inch edge grain fir. So I have softwood flooring throughout my house. It looks amazing. For my living room into a dance floor, for my ballroom, and for my dance. My floors are beautiful in my opinion. They're very, very expensive. I did them for me. Is the market going to pay me back all that money I spent on these floors? Well, they're really nice. So it might give a little bit back. It might pop up a little bit to a lot of prospective purchasers. There's no way that tens of thousands I spent on those floors are going to come back to me. So that was one I did for me. The other example I'll give you is a friend asked me to come over and have a look at her house because she was going to put it on the market. But I come over and give her some, ask about the things she wanted to do. So I go to her house. She's, I'm going to rip off the porch and redo this. I'm going to fix the concrete here, and I'm going to do all these things inside. And I'm looking at her. I'm looking at what she wants to do. And I said, no. I said, what you want to do is nothing. I said, don't do any of that. I said, just remove some of the furniture to open up the space, make it look clear, just like any realtor might want you to do. And I said, don't do anything, because anything you do, a lot of homeowners are going to rip it all right back out and change it the way they want it. Or you're just, the change you're making, it's going to cost you $10,000 to replace your porch cover and the concrete, and it will change the value of your property by zero. It will just make it look a little nicer, so it might sell better, but it's not going to change the value of your property. So don't do that at all. And so I'm happy that she followed my advice. I actually suggested her that she put a list price a little bit higher than she was thinking, and she was very happy with the results. She had a buyer right away that was super happy with the house, and she didn't have to do anything. So keep that in mind if you're looking to sell. Don't be thinking about sinking a ton of money in just for the sake of selling it. It might be just fine the way it is.
Do it for yourself. I really like that, because my in-laws, before they moved out here from Chicago, they did a full kitchen remodel, and they're like, why didn't we do that sooner? They knew that they needed to do that to sell it, right? Because otherwise you end up selling to an investor. And they're like, we could have done this sooner so we could have enjoyed it. So that scenario definitely played out in the family. And we do see a lot of people doing exactly what your friend did. And I'm going to list my house as soon as I do this laundry list of 60 things. And by the time they do their laundry list of 60 things that they want to do, that's not going to greatly improve the value of their house. It helps their house sell, but all that time that they lost, they could have just put it on the market and brought in a cleaning crew. And I'm not saying sell it as is. You have to clean it up. We have at my brokerage, we have a really nice a listing checklist. Here are the things that you need to do to make your home sell, right? To make it aesthetically pleasing. So anyway, well, I love everything that you said today, Warren. Going behind the scenes, your job, is it dangerous? Are you climbing on roofs? And what? Tell me a little bit about a day in the life.
Not dangerous unless there's certain dogs, but I love dogs, so it's not usually an issue.
Oh, that's a good point. Those dogs, yeah.
I know. I tell people when I knock on their door and I come into their homes, their pet's right there, and I say, "This is the favorite part of my job. I get to meet everybody's pets, so it's a little bit fun. But there's not really any danger. The one thing that does come up sometimes as part of the appraisal process is I need to view the comparable sales I'm using in the report. I drive to them, I take a picture of them, and take some notes of it, talk to the realtors as necessary. But I have to drive to these properties and take a picture of them. And sometimes homeowners see me do that, and sometimes they get very mad, and sometimes I've been chased down, and I've had cars actually pull me into the curb and block me off, and very angry people come out. And that's a little concerning at times of my safety. So
it's kind of like, don't take a picture of my house.
Yeah, what are you doing? And so, I have my deflection techniques that when they do that, I said, I'm an appraiser. I'm doing an appraisal of one of your neighbors, and I'm using your home as a comparable sale. And since you're here, can you confirm with me that so-and-so Rhonda sold your house, she was your realtor, and you sold the house for $340,000 on such and such a date? And they're blown away that I have all this information and I know all this. I'm like, well, okay then, it's fine. And then they realize they were a little bit overboard.
But yet when you go on Google Earth, their house is there. You can see the aerial view, but they aren't creeped out by that as much as they are Warren standing out in front with a camera.
And I get it. Being in the job, I wouldn't be concerned if I saw that, but I get it. So a day in the life, just the appraisal process is would involve me receiving an order, usually from a lending institution, because most appraisals are done for mortgage financing. The bulk of my work is for that purpose. Sometimes I do private purposes for divorce proceedings, perhaps for law cases. Those do happen. For the most part, it's for mortgage lending purposes.
Yeah, but what about those celebrities? They're still getting those big mortgages and needing to refinance. Tell me about those.
Well, the purpose of the appraisal when it arrives may say that. It may just say for a refinance or a HELOC or something. I suspect that in their cases, they are probably doing it for tax purposes, making the house a tax write-off. That's what I suspect that it's going to be used for.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Not at all. But whatever the purpose might be, it's often, like I say, it's usually for those the purposes of a purchase or for a HELOC refinance. And my opinion of value is being used to demonstrate market value. What's the market? Oh, Kitty wants up again. Very Kitty. What's the value of the property? Based on the definition of market value. So I'm going to do some pre-research, some prep work. I'm going to prep my files. I'm going to research county records, research MLS if it is a sale or MLS data. I'm going to do some pre-research in the market. So I am going to do a real broad search of that property's market area or those potential sales and listings that may be comparable to the subject. Quite broad, so that I want to give a real open look at what's going on. Then I'm going to be calling you or the homeowner, depending on the property. So I'll call the realtor to arrange for the inspection. I'll call the homeowner if that's the case. Come out to the property. Now you have this appraiser at your property. So the homeowners, they're going to see me out front. I'm going to take some notes out front, take some pictures of the front of the house, start my front measuring, because I will pull the floor plan from the county if the county has it available. About 9 times out of 10, the county has the floor plans. So I'll have that as sort of a template, but I'm going to measure your house. So I'm going to run my tape, see that the house is the size that the county says it is. I have had cases where the county has the wrong house on the lot and realtors haven't caught it. So fortunately, I've been there to say, you're selling the wrong house. What county says is on the lot isn't there. So I will measure up the house. Then I'll come inside. The full inspection of a home usually for me runs 30 to 60 minutes, unless we're talking about one of these 15,000 square foot monsters. Then all bets are off. And I'll just start right at the front door. I'm going to take a picture of every room. I'm going to bring my notepad. I'm going to be making notes I'm going to fill a sheet of paper on that house. So I'm just going to look at each room. What's the finishes? What's the features? I'm going to look at functionality, layout, design, upgrading. Again, a picture of each room, a couple pictures of the kitchen usually. Head to the backyard, outside features. Again, more measuring at the back. And I always at the end, whether it's a realtor or a homeowner, I'm going to, she likes to punch me in the face now and again. Whether it's a realtor or a homeowner, I like to stop up with them for a few minutes at the end of my inspection, discuss what I've seen, discuss the features that I've seen, and ask, is there upgrading? Is there features that you want to make sure that I'm aware of, that you've done, or that that are important to you? And I think that's important because I see myself as being a guest in your house, in that homeowner's house, and I need to make sure that homeowner is comfortable with me, knows they're getting a fair shake, that they have my full attention. I'm not blazing through and ignoring things that may be pertinent. I want to make sure that homeowner is comfortable with me and feels that I'm doing the job correctly. After that, I've got my notes done. I might head out to the car, and you might see me sitting out in the car for 10 minutes because now I'm going over my notes and I'm going over all that broad research that I've done. So as I mentioned before, I have to view and photograph all the comparable sales I'm going to use. So right then and there, I may go off and go and photograph 8, 10, 12 properties, go and view them all, have a look. And some of them may be just, nope, that's not any good at all. Some are like, yeah, this is very good, might be a good comparable. So, and if the comparables aren't good enough, I will go back to my system and research again and look for other sales that may be more pertinent, that make more sense for that property. We get to that's actually the quickest part of the job, is the inspection. That 30 minutes or 1 hour inspection is the fastest part of the job. So when homeowners go, oh, you're done already. Well, I'm not a building inspector. Inspectors spend 3 or 4 or 5 hours on the property and they have a 20-minute write-up. I'm the other way around. So I've got the time on property is the shortest part. Now it's time for the research, analyzing data, writing the report, doing a sales grid, putting the data in. I'm going to usually be including an absolute minimum of 4 comparables up to 9, depending on this, the size and the value of the property. If it's a $20 million property, the underwriters and the realtor and the bankers are going to want to see a lot of comparable data to prove it.
But here's the thing though, if you have a custom home, you don't have comparable data.
Depends on your point of view.
Okay.
For me, there always is. There has to be. There has to be. Now, it's not as clear cut. Now, this is why I really enjoy the work I do. There's not that many appraisers that do what I do in terms of the big high-end custom work. I can almost name them all. Apart from myself, there's just a few. There's a lot of appraisers in town. They do tract home, and that's what they're used to. They're used to that. They view a property, and there's 6 model matches, and there's 5 or 6 others that are pretty close, and there they go. They're done. I'm looking at homes that there is nothing like it, and every single one is different. So all my comparables are different than the subject. But that's where bracketing comes in. That's where, if my home I'm appraising is 8,000 square feet, I'm going to have a couple that are a little smaller, a couple that are a little bit bigger. I'm going to have ones that have fewer bathrooms, more bathrooms. I'm going to have ones that have bigger lots, smaller lots. I'm going to bracket every feature I can and include every feature. If someone has an own solar system, I'm going to include a sale with an own solar system. If they've got barbecues, if they've got, detached casitas, those things all have to be accounted for because those things have value. So I have to demonstrate value or demonstrate they don't have value. So it's all, so that's where you start getting a lot of comparable sales to cover all the bases.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I really appreciate your time today, and thank you for being on the podcast. But is there anything that I have not asked you that you'd like to share?
I really like what I do for a living. Working with realtors and just working as an appraiser. It's often really challenging. It's often a lot of hours. I usually work 7 days a week. Actually, took a break from working today to talk with you. I was going to suggest that if you have people contacting each podcast and have questions, that they want answered, that we can always, I'd love to do this again and answer more. So this job, it becomes a job of stories. Because like I say, I've appraised a little over 10,000 homes since I've been in Las Vegas, and I've seen it, and I've been in it, and I've viewed it, and I've appraised it, and it's all about it's all interesting, and I learn something new all the time. So I get nothing but stories. So I could tell you stories for 5 hours of different things I've seen, different places I've had to go for inspections and whatnot.
I will definitely give the viewers an opportunity to submit other questions so we can have a part 2.
I do new construction in new neighborhoods being built. So the lender will send me a set of full plans and spec sheets on what's going to be built, and they want me to appraise it as if it was there today. So I must go and view the lot as part of the appraisal. So I drive up to the lot, view the lot, take pictures of the vacant site, views from the site. In some cases, I had a case about 8-10 months ago where I was unable to get to the site because they hadn't even started building the roads yet. And as much as I tried, the roads were all closed off. It was completely inaccessible. And I was at a loss of what to do. And the banker was on to me to get the appraisal underway so it could be submitted. So I have my pilot's license. I have a little plane up at North Las Vegas. And so I got my camera. I made sure I knew where I was going, because it looks a little different from the air. And I took off and flew over the site and circled around and got my pictures from the air for that one.
You couldn't have just used a drone?
I don't have a drone.
Oh, why do you not have
a drone? It's way more fun to get up there myself.
Okay,
can't fit in a drone.
Fair enough, fair enough. All right, another question. Who's on the back of your jersey?
In fact, when I gotta turn around so you can see. Yeah.
Got it. Yep.
Well, when I first moved, I've been a season ticket holder since day one, the Golden Knights. So since day one, I've had my seats, Section 3, okay, seats 15 and 16 have been my seats since the first day of the first game. But we're in season 9 now, and they did a little thing with this group who did this promotion for people. They only did about 15 of them overall, but people that came from different markets. I came from Vancouver, so I'm from the Canucks. So I show up one day in my Canucks jersey. They took me up to the keep up at the top, and the knight takes my jersey, hands me this one, and then I get down on one knee, and he knighted me with a sword. So I got knighted. So I got one of the knighted jerseys. So back in 2018. I got knighted. So that's
a great story. So basically, they cured you of being a Canuck. Like
that was their plan. They took the Canucks from me, and so here we are with the Knights.
I was wondering about that. Well, my jersey is actually Corey Crawford, who is not with the Blackhawks any longer, but I still have his jersey.
Excellent, and, as you should.
Last question: what is your cat's name?
Well, that's Gypsy.
I appreciate that Gypsy was able to join our show today. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I'll let you know if the viewers have any follow-up questions.
Yeah, that was fun.
Thank you so much for joining, and have a great day.